Good everybody, this is Justin from the RC and Coffee YouTube channel and Facebook page. As always, please consider supporting us by subscribing to our channel, hitting the notification button, and please connect on Facebook using our group. Today, as part of the skill construction, skill build series, if I can put it this way, we will be taking a look at the BRX01 chassis from Boom Racing. That chassis came out a little over a year ago. It came out on its own at first, and then it was associated with the LC70 kit, which is one of the best kits I can't remember if it was late 2019 or early 2020, but a fantastic kit. The amount of accessories, the amount of upgrades of customization that this kit offers is absolutely fantastic. And the chassis on its own is amongst the best in order to conduct your very own skill build. So without further ado, I'll dive into the chassis, but before I get into the specificities, I'll let you know about the build because this, unlike some of the others, it had to be built, so I'll let you know how that went. So first and foremost, you have a really nice manual here. It feels really high quality, same as the chassis actually, we'll get into that in a second. But so you have your list of equipment, everything is really well laid out, your list of parts. I've noticed that on other manuals, some of them being really good, I'm thinking of the MST CFX series. The images are a bit all over the place and they change in size. So what I really like about this particular manual is, well, you can see the ease at which you can see the parts, and once you get into the build, you've got your list of parts at the top here or here. You can, and it's to scale, so you can literally take your screw, measure it against the little drawing and make sure that you've got the right one. Everything is really well laid out, everything is very clear. And with regards to, let's see, so for instance, the panhard rods, any kind of rods, anything that requires a certain particular measurement, they give you that, and again, it's to scale, so you can compare it and measure and make sure that everything is okay. Now, the kit on its own, if you follow the instruction, and again, know that it's a suggestion, you should always follow instructions, but is relatively easy to put together. The manual is really well done. However, it is not forgiving when it comes to mistakes. My number one worry about this kit was actually the quality of the metal used. It felt really soft. That was before I even put it together. Well, this fear or concern, if I can put it this way, proved to be true, because if you make a mistake and you put your screw, you screw on the wrong part, and you tighten it up with your bolt and nut, you are most likely going to compress the alloy, and the part will be difficult to use afterwards. That actually happened at the on the front axle here. So basically the part where you connect the links here, I essentially attached it upside down. My bad, I should have looked at it. But essentially that part is about 2 millimeters thick. Well, believe it or not, I didn't even tighten it this hard, and it was it basically compressed, and I had to shim or file rather this area there in order to be able to put the link back in. So I was really surprised. So it happened once. The second thing to look at, everything is really tight. So it's from an engineering point of view, it's really good. But if you make a mistake, it's hard to undo what you've done. And sometimes the mistakes are not even yours. For instance, I was mentioning the panhard rod not a few minutes ago. So that's this little rod here that connects the chassis to the front axle. Well, in the manual, they suggest 37 millimeters of width in order to avoid bump steer. Well, that doesn't work at all. I can't recall what, I think I'm way over that. I think I'm at 43 millimeters, something like that. My geometry is not perfect, but it's much better than what they had suggested. And if for my particular chassis, I don't know if it's a one-off or something, but if I had used their measurements, my shocks would be, sitting kind of like that. Now, overall, it feels very high quality, but with the exception of the metal used, but the engineering is amongst the best that I've ever seen. It's surprising. it's a pleasure to put this kit together. It's a pleasure to flip through these pages, and I think it's important when you take the time to build a kit, because as Johnny Burton would say for the Cross RC kits, actually, as a matter of fact, this manual really reminds me of a Cross RC manual, which is a compliment. Most of your money is in the build. So let's dive into the details a little more and see what this is about. In terms of wheelbase, so you do have a bunch of options. There's a bunch of screws there. So I don't know. I'm not sure. What are the different possible options. I don't think they actually mention possible wheelbases, simply because you'd probably have to change the links. The links are, by the way, super thick. They're almost as thick as the drive shafts. It's very, very high quality stuff. So you have the ability to change it. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the shock towers there, I think you have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe like 12 or 13 holes in which you can install the suspension in order to increase your ride height, decrease your ride height, and push your shocks forward, and also eventually your axles. So very, very interesting with regards to that. I think the biggest selling point or the best feature about this chassis, though, besides the axles, probably the axles are the number one thing. The second thing is it's that flat area there. As you can see, it's a hole in which you can totally envision an interior in here. As a matter of fact, it's so well done. The little servo here, that's the shifting servo, is literally flush against the chassis itself, so it's not protruding like you would have seen on the Trailfinder 2. That's a big difference. The transmission is, while relatively high, is relatively compact. So you basically have about 1.5 inches of height. But again, that height is about an 1.5 inches higher than the highest point on the chassis there, on the chassis rails. But all of this is super low, and everything sits lower than the flat spots of the chassis, of the railing rather, which is really important because that's how your body sits. And this hole there is obviously where your interior would sit. And all this with a two-speed gearbox is extremely impressive, because usually all those added features take up room. So that's very, very impressive. Now, the wheelbase is 12.32, so it's in the average, slightly probably on the long side. The transmission is located at the front. Your motor sits right in between your shock tower here. And as I was mentioning earlier, the width of the axle is 584 inches, which is fantastic. In terms of shocks, so you have 80 millimeters across the board. And with regards to the chassis stiffness, it's fantastic. I mean, those rails are super thick. There's not a millimeter of flex in this thing. Very, very solidly built. So that's a 5 out of 5. Regarding the aftermarket support, this chassis being so popular, there's a lot of stuff there. Again, I wouldn't say it has the popularity of your run-of-the-mill SCX-10-2, but I'll give it a 3 out of 5 in terms of aftermarket support and the ability to get stuff from different distributors. Now, the overall perceived quality, that's a solid 5, I was mentioning. The skill look of the architecture, that is a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, the only thing that I can probably see that may potentially stand out, it's the way that the suspensions are mounted. Not particularly skilled, but nothing out of the ordinary. Very normal, very run-of-the-mill in terms of architecture there. The transmission is particularly well done, the axles as well. The skill look of the axles, amongst the best. Interestingly, and we'll see this later on, the axles have almost exactly the same, maybe exactly as in fact, the same shape as the axles sitting on the GCM Racing chassis C-Max. The size is a bit different. The axles on the C-Max are a bit bigger, but the general shape is literally the same. The skill look of the shocks for this guy, it's 2.5, so nothing to write home about. The customizability of the chassis, I put it at 3.5 because you've got such a, it's this part here that's so key when you're building a skill, construction. It's flat. You don't have to worry about anything. You just put your chassis right on there, and And that's it, essentially. You've got a bunch of holes there where you can attach whatever feature, whatever attaching point that you may need. You've got a bunch of holes all along the railing there, again, to choose the right attaching point for your particular application. That's fantastic. This doesn't need to have cantilever shocks. The shocks are flat, they're lower than the chassis there. That's key again. Overall, the score of the BRX01 is 4 out of 5, which is the highest so far. Just to give you an idea of the highest, the previous highest score was 3.75. That belonged to the Trailfinder 2, the long wheelbase. Well, we have a new winner, so to speak. It is this guy. The price point is not the same. We're comparing $399.99 compared to $629. Obviously not the same price. You're expecting a higher quality, and oh boy, do you get a higher quality. This doesn't come with electronics. You have to add your own stuff. Something to point out that is not negligible: the location of the servo here, can be altered, I think, by 20 millimeters, give or take. So then again, brings you more adjustability, and that servo, as it sits, is right on the edge of the chassis there. So that's a very, very nice feature there. So overall, a fantastic chassis, a great build. Try not to make too many mistakes. You're going to be running also through a lot of Loctite there. So there are a lot of parts, but overall, a very enjoyable build. You can see there's even rubber sealed bearings there. It's high quality stuff. The smoothness of the transmission is incredible. If you take a look at RC Review's video on the BRX01, they actually do mention it. They're not kidding. It's pretty impressive. And a particular feature of this particular chassis is that the high gear is particularly quick, and so it's a fast little truck rather, and the low gear is super slow. So overall, fantastic chassis. Highly recommend for your skill build. It gives you a ton of adjustability to be able to to apply to whatever build you're going for. So that's it. Again, please subscribe and comment. Let us know your opinion on this. If there's anything that I haven't covered, please let us know. And we will see you at the next video. Thank you.